Welcome back to another episode of the IFC's Individuation podcast. I'm Dr. Lahab Al-Samarrai, and with me today, as always, the Wrecking Crew. Dr. Eric Tomlinson is with us. Dr. Lisa Hong is with us. And so today, we are going to wrap up Stranger Things. We've had a great ride with everybody. So this is our part two of our finale for Stranger Things. And Stranger Things is a Netflix series. It's watched all over the world. And one of the main themes that we're talking about in Stranger Things and why we're analyzing the material is trauma. How does trauma infect? How does trauma affect? How does trauma destroy? How does trauma change? How does trauma take over? How does trauma become a monster? And how does that monster destroy us, destroy our relationships, destroy those who are around us? Because trauma has a lot of tentacles and they spread out far and wide. So if you have a family of 5, and one of you is traumatized, that will spread in the family. Because if that person does not receive treatment, they will continue to have symptoms, and the rest of the family will have to respond to the symptoms. The more they respond to the symptoms, the more they are traumatized by the symptoms.
Yes.
The more they see the suffering, the more they suffer because they can't help. So this is what we mean by intergenerational trauma. This is how it's passed on. It's not passed on by somebody like if you got traumatized by your father smacking you. It's not passed on by you smacking all your children. It's passed on by the idea of how you felt and how you, as a person, was demoralized, felt helpless, felt humiliated. Those things are passed down because what happens is if I walk from that position, if I talk from that position, if I think from that position of the trauma, then I am diminished, right? And so when I speak to others around me, I have to tell them how I am diminished, and they have to respond to me and say, oh, well, maybe you're not. Maybe they'll try to fix me. And that's what's going on in Stranger Things. So we have like different generations in Stranger Things. We have like the 40 plus 50-year-olds. We have the preteens. We have the adolescents. And then we have the young adults who have pretty much getting ready to go to college. So, but we see them like age throughout the series, and now they're much older. But we see 3, 4 different generations that are dealing with traumatic events. So, without further ado, let's talk about these traumatic events and let's talk about season 4. Lisa, you want to talk a little bit about season 4? Maybe some 11 is at school. Something is happening to her.
Yes. Let's start. Yes, as with every season of Stranger Things, there are multiple storylines happening. And so in case of 11, she's being integrated, mainstreamed into public school now instead of isolated.
In California.
In California, right. And she's moved and she's living away from her friends and support network. And unfortunately, she's having a terrible time out there. She's bullied. She's picked on for being acting a little differently or feeling awkward and acting awkward and uncomfortable because it is a very foreign world to her.
Why doesn't she retaliate?
I don't remember why she can't. She wants to retaliate. I do remember that.
She lost her power.
Yeah.
In season 3, she was fighting She was fighting the monsters,
Mm-hmm.
and she thought she won,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't. She didn't win.
And here's a whole new monster.
Yeah, yeah.
Being bullied.
That's
Mhm.
right. So she's being bullied. Go on, Lisa.
She's being bullied. She has no voice. She hardly
Yeah,
talks to anybody, has barely know any friends or none, doesn't really talk to anybody
yeah.
during the
Except her
day.
boyfriend, she sends
Except
him letters,
she
right?
does, and the tonality of those letters are all lies. They're all
Yes, yeah.
lies. She
What is
tells
she
them
lying
lies.
about? All the things you're talking about.
She lies that she has girlfriends. She lies that she loves her new home and she loves
Yeah,
California
yeah,
and that she's thriving.
yeah,
She lies about that.
yeah.
Mhm. And what's really happening is that she still has her anger, she still has her pride, but she is ineffective. She does try to
Mhm,
focus and use her anger like use her powers like she used to,
yeah,
but it yields nothing. She's lost her ability and she's lost her voice. She's lost her place.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, in her fight, she screams and screams at him for all the things he did. And then she thinks she's won. She prevails, but she doesn't prevail. And now she's in trouble.
mhm.
And now she's afraid.
Yes.
So she's terrified at this point. So what happens when you're terrified? Your old demons knock at the door
Mhm.
and they say, hey, do you want to be brave again? That's what they say. Hey, you want to be brave? And you're like, no, not really. I don't want to see you guys anymore. So she kept telling them, it's like, oh, they're like, you can fix everything. We could get your power back. We know how to get it back for you. All you have to do is let everybody know that you're going to come with us and it's your choice. All right. And you have to come with us so you could regain your power. So we're going to put you through some of the same experiments we put you through. You know, we're gonna scare the shit out of you. We're gonna make you, hallucinate. We're gonna make you think you are somewhere you're not.
Mhm.
We're gonna put you in situations where you're under extreme distress,
Mhm.
but you will regain your power. And so what
Well,
they do, they put her in a tank. Yeah, Dr. Eric.
I don't know about hallucinations, but at least from a personal experience, but I do know from personal experience that fear can absolutely cause delusional thinking.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the
Guilty. We've all been
place.
guilty.
It's also the place where she was traumatized, right?
Yeah.
So walking into that place is going to cause hallucinations.
Let me give everyone a reference. I think we
Yeah.
didn't mention that the her old pop came out of the blue and was the old man with a piece of candy of power and
Yep.
inviting her back to the old institution again.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this is what we're referring to about
You're the hero.
Yeah. Mhm.
They tell her this. They say you are the hero. You're the only one that can save them. All your friends are going to die. They
Mhm.
cannot fight this thing. This thing has grown way too powerful. You're the only one who understands it. You're the only one who has power to stop it. You're the only one. And so when she goes back into that underground in the Vegas desert facility, right? She doesn't know that the government has split factions. So there's one faction that wants them to cease and desist. They want to close everything down. They want to close all the gateways. They want to close the experiments. They want to destroy everything. And then you have the other faction that thinks they could fix things. They're the ones who fuck things up. So they're the ones who are going to try to fix things. So how do we fix things? So we'll go get back our experiment.
Mhm.
We'll convince her that the experiment was righteous and that without the experiment, she wouldn't have the power to fix things. Well, if you didn't break her, things wouldn't be broken.
Mhm.
So in that place, she starts to piece together, right, Lisa? That she starts to piece together all the pieces of her past when she was a child, who she had around her, who were these other children, and how did they die? In her mind, she killed them. She became so angry and she killed them. It turns out she didn't kill anybody. It was this other boy who basically had killed his parents, killed his mother and sister, and then maimed his father, tore out his eyes. And his father is in a psychiatric prison that Jonathan and Robin and Nancy go to interview this guy, to figure out about his sons, because now they're retracing the steps. They figured out the geography of where all this started. And it was this house in the middle of Hawkins. It's like a huge castle, a mansion. And then they start explaining the story of the sociopathic son, the son who hated the family, who wanted to maim and kill. And after the incident where the father gets thrown in psychiatric prison because he's accused of killing his wife and daughter, the son is kidnapped by the same people, kidnapped by Papa and the group of scientists who are experimenting. And he is labeled 001 because he was the first experiment.
Mhm. And let's throw this other twist in there. At some point, 001 escapes the facility
Yeah.
and they think he's lost and gone forever. But when in fact, he's reintegrated himself in the institution as a wolf in sheep's clothing, as one of the employees there.
Correct.
While 11 comes back in her weakened or powerless state. And that is where she's going through her rabbit holes and memories
Yeah.
of what is truth or what was feelings and memories and her histories, and seeing things differently in her trance states, and getting conflicting messages and confusing sometimes, and also being building a relationship with 001 that she doesn't know yet. She just thinks he's an orderly. But who knows how to soothe her appropriately at the right times of stress. He has a sense about what it is that she needs in her frustrating times.
Yeah, he tells her that they are the same. So he's trying to like have her ally herself with him, right? And he says these people are very dangerous. You don't understand. They hurt you. They torture you. And what they're doing is they're already kind of messing with her head, because there are projections of kids there that are long dead, that are from her past, because they're trying to trigger her power again, remember? And she doesn't know how to use her power, and she's trying to get it back. And so they start putting her in a deprivation tank where she starts to hallucinate. She starts to have these hallucinations of all the dead children, all the things that happen. And then she starts to realize that she's like, oh, now I know who is my enemy. I know who's after me. And then you have another faction of the military that invades the bunker and is trying, I think, to kill her. I think they wanted to end her because she was the source of the chaos. At the same time, the other group is looking for her. That's Will And yeah, I think it's Will. There's a new pizza guy, very funny character. And then there's a couple of other characters. Her boyfriend comes in. He's looking for her also. Yeah, so those three, they pick up another kid somewhere and they go searching for her. So they're searching for her. The sheriff is in a gulag in the former Soviet Union. He's in Russia somewhere, in Siberia, trying to escape, and realizes that they're using the creatures as sport to kill prisoners, to see how the prisoners would fight the creature. And then he remembered that he needed fire to fight the creature. So fire remains the element. And then there are people out to save him. They figured out he's there. They also figured out that 11 is underground. They need to save her. She's able to escape. And then they take her somewhere and fill like a pool, like one of those inflatable pools, and put 11 in it to fight this other kid, to fight her nemesis, to fight the kid who massacred all the other kids, because she realizes she's not the one. So, like trauma, doesn't stay where it's supposed to stay. The traumatic incident never stays in one place. The traumatic incident is carried across land, is carried across countries, is carried across continents. That's what we learned very fast, that trauma doesn't stay, it's mobile. Trauma is not like something, it's a monolith that doesn't move. Trauma is mobile, and it spreads, and it's quick. Its spreading is quick. It's not like takes days or years or months. And that it consumes, what it consumes is it consumes their happiness.
Good point.
Do you want to talk about that, Dr. Eric?
No, I'm just saying that that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Be-
Well, yeah.
Because that's exactly what, it's one of the side effects of traumatic experiences, is
Yeah.
it saps your joy.
Yeah.
Because your brain is so focused on the event, and the side of your brain, the left side of your, that's the right side of your brain, which is where all your emotions are involved. And then the left side of your brain, the logic is undermined.
Yeah.
And so you wind up thinking more with your feelings than you do with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And once you do that, which is what JAMP and the bilateral stimulation involved in JAMP rewires in the brain, which is what's so great about it. But unless you have that separation occurs and you don't even know it. You're not even thinking about it. You're not even realizing it, because the feelings have their own set of thoughts and thinking patterns that are emotionally conjured up. And then your logic kind of gets put on, it gets put on the back burner. It's not operating at full measure. And then we start being overtaken by the traumatic emotional effects.
That's perfectly stated. Those effects are of being possessed.
Yes, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think you expressed it very well.
Thank you.
It holds you in ways that it feels like possession. Is like you're a puppet. Like you know it's not real. You can sit there and go, Yeah, I know it's not real. I don't like, I know there's nothing out there, but I still can't go out with you guys because I feel like something's going to happen. So I can't be there with you, but nothing's going to happen, but you can't prove that. You can't make that statement. How do you know nothing's going to happen? The last time I heard that, that's when something happened. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of it happened once, it's always going to happen again and again and
Yes.
again and again. And therefore it does. As a psychological echo, it comes back again and again and again. And saying the same thing is like, oh, you're terrified. Oh, you're scared. Oh, you should be scared. Oh, you shouldn't go out. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Life is mean. Things are terrible.
And it feels like sameness to us because that's what we've been thinking and feeling.
Yeah, it's an old pattern.
It is. And we're stuck in it.
Yeah, we keep retracing the steps. We keep looking at it and going, okay, yeah, I'm going to walk the circle. It was like, why are you walking the circle? My great grandfather walked the circle. What do you mean? Why I walk the circle? What kind of insulting question is that? Okay. So you're stuck in the circle. Oh yeah. I have to walk the circle. Okay. So you're stuck in the circle because you have to walk the circle because there's no other choices, right? Why do we not have other choices? Because we're stuck with the echo. And the echo is, you know what could happen to you? You know how you can lose yourself? You know how you could perish? You know how you could die? You know there are scary things out there? Do you know? Can you stop them? Can you stop them from coming, penetrating? What if they come in dreams? What if they don't come when you're awake? How are you going to fight them then? So there's a huge sequence at the end in this fight between her and the Mind Slayer. That's all about that. She has to face the original trauma. And she has to heal the split in her psyche. But the trauma of facing it, they're in like a dark theater of some sort. So they're facing each other. And she screams at him. She screams and screams. And then she's afraid and terrified by him. And they go back and forth until she's finally able to heal the split, close the gate. And what they realize is that they're losing the war, that they thought that he's tricked them. He's already waiting for them. So they thought what they would do is go to the house and set up in the house and destroy him while he was sleeping in the underworld. While he wasn't there because he was busy with El. They thought they could kill him in the house. He was ready for them. He was waiting. He was in a sleep. And then he starts taunting her. He's like, they're all dead. I'm going to kill them all one by one. I'm going to snap their necks. Look at them. They're all thinking you're going to help them. And you're weaker than they are. So he starts bullying her. And then she refuses to be bullied anymore. She stands up. And she stands up to her fear. And her biggest fear is what? Losing her friends, her family. This is the only family she's known. Is all these kids around her. And their fight. So one of the scenes, which is great, season 4 is beautiful. There's a scene where they crawl into the upside down. So the way you crawl into the upside down is by falling in the upright world. And then you end up in the upside down world. And in the upside down world, it's a reflection of the outside world, but much scarier. And there are these terrifying birds that fly around. and they like pick at you, but they're actually extensions of the mind slayer. They pick at you, they bug you, they nip at you, and they decide that they want to take them on. Of course, at this point, the town is all turned against these kids and sees them as the cause of the infiltration. They call it the devil's work. So now the townspeople want to burn the kids to the ground. So they're meeting in secret. They have other kids searching for them. And Lucas is now with the popular kids. He's with the football bunch. And they want to put an end to all these devil worshipers. They're the ones who created the worst of the worst. And so there's a cheerleader early on in the season. Her death is what triggers the town. Her death was brutal. But it's like, oh, this is evil. And these are the kids who created it. They're the ones who let it out.
That's an interesting point, because oftentimes, at least this is, I'm only speaking from my own experience, and that is that oftentimes people who are trying to root out quote unquote evil the most are those who don't have a clue as to what evil really is.
And it usually is mental illness of sorts.
And even if it's not mental illness, it's a constriction of mental and emotional personality within that individual.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about the people who they describe as evil.
Oh, I see.
Because in past history, the people who we've described as evil or possessed or crazy are people who are traumatized or suffer from some kind of psychological disorder, and they become evil. They're being possessed by evil. So we have to cleanse them. And how do we cleanse them? We burn the witches. We drown them. We torture them. Because these were like methods to treat anything we didn't understand. We destroyed because of fear. We have spent a lifetime and many, many lifetimes doing that on this planet. We've destroyed the animals, we've destroyed the trees, we've destroyed the ground, we've destroyed the water. Because we deserve to. Because we're righteous.
It's a very linear and obtuse approach.
Oh, yeah.
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 Very egocentric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very scary way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
Because
those that can't, it's just my opinion, but those who can't see beyond themselves,
yeah,
are never able to see themselves,
yeah,
for who they really are.
yeah, because we're reflections of each other, right? To be human is to see multiple reflections of yourself.
Yeah.
In different forms, in different genders, in different bodies, in different ways of thinking, in different ways of speaking, because there's multiples of us.
Yeah.
We just don't think about it.
Yeah.
We think, oh, I'm an individual. No, you're a multiple of multiples. Every time you walk out on the street, you're a multiple. Anytime you're in your hometown, you're a multiple of a multiple, because you'll start looking around. A lot of people look like you, and you're like, well, that's weird. Why do they look like me? Well, you're a multiple of multiple. Those people who lived in that small town probably related somehow to you, because you're a multiple of a multiple. You are the creation of many other creations, but these creations have all lived here. So therefore,
But the humanity comes in when you can be a foreigner in a foreign land and still see the multiple within the multiple, even if you don't
correct.
share a language, but there is
Yeah.
a reflection and recognition of ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
And
Even if
that's,
even if you don't
that's,
speak the language
yeah,
or know the culture or know how people live, you still can see that connection to all these creatures on this planet.
or relate. Oh, I react that way, or oh, I feel that way when I get excited,
Yeah.
or yeah, or oh yeah, that person was startled. I do, these kinds of comments you can see.
Yeah. In Stranger Things, I mean, the biggest aspects of the series are about facing your fear, facing your worst fear,
Mhm.
overcoming your worst fear, living and existing with fear, living and existing in a world that doesn't make sense, knowing that there are no ready solutions, but there is always a way to overcome.
Mhm.
And so what these heroes, these kids, these heroes, these actors, these storytellers tell us is that you can fight, you can resist, you don't have to give up, you don't have to give in, you could do many things.
We all have choices.
Yeah. What do you think of Elle and the group, Eric? They've grown quite a bit.
Well, I'm going to have to admit something here that
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes I watch the series as simply an observer and an enjoyer of the
Yeah.
series. And sometimes I watch the episodes as more of a clinician.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed is that once I heard that Elle had lost her powers and was having problems in school because people were bullying her, I engaged in what, as you know better than I do, what's called countertransference.
Mm.
Transference is where they give you information about themselves, and countertransference is when you're basically responding to that out of your own life
Yeah.
and your own mind and emotions. And I found myself really engaging in countertransference because as soon as she was powerless and being picked on, I wanted to just help her.
Mm.
I mean, I was ready to beat up some of the people that were mistreating her.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, that's how caught up in her own angst and psychic issues that I became for her.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's a human response.
So
pardon?
what'd you do, Eric?
It's
So
a human
then what?
response.
I kept watching.
Mm.
How did you, when were you aware of that?
I was aware of it pretty much when I started feeling it,
Mm.
because I'm going, why am I wanting to hurt the people that's hurting her? That automatically told me that there was something going on in me.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I first realized it, Lisa.
Well, we have a very defensive.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to say that I quickly overcame it because it took a while.
Mm.
And I think I don't think I'm the only watcher of that show that has ever felt that.
No,
Right. So many
we
shows.
become very invested in the characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that. So if other people sense themselves doing that, they'll understand the process as I tried to really briefly describe it.
Yeah.
I am worthy. I am loved.
I am protected.
I am
And-
protected.
And Lisa
I
is
am
awesome.
safe.
Mhm.
I am not afraid.
Yeah.
Well, part of it is to show Elle as being vulnerable, because what you've seen is Elle is as invulnerable. And to
Good
get
point.
back to the point of origin, the point of origin is her innocence and vulnerability that's taken advantage of. So to get back to that
Very
point is
good.
when
That's very good.
she starts to be terrorized again. She starts to look for her power.
Yes.
Yeah, she closes her eyes, she shuts her hand, and then it doesn't come back. And then she feels helpless and stupid, and she becomes angry with herself for feeling
And
helpless.
isn't that what we do at times? It is.
Definitely. This is a human experience.
Mhm.
Yes.
This is a human experience that we all go through. This is a human experience. We remember when we were young and we could run a mile without sweating, without like breathing like your lungs are coming out of your mouth. We remember those days. We remember when our knees worked and our elbows. I remember when, after a long night of debauchery, I fall out of bed. And the way I wake up is by hitting the floor. But it didn't hurt. It just woke me up. I can't do that now. There's no way I could do that. I can't roll out of bed and hit the floor. That would hurt. I would be limping for a week if I did that. I could just imagine. So we know, as a species, we know that our abilities decrease as we change. Certain abilities increase, other abilities decrease. The physical abilities over time decrease. We've seen it in athletes, we see it in ourselves. We see how the world works. We see how our how illness works. But the way that trauma works is it ages you from the inside out. What's great about the series is these kids age in a way that other kids don't. You could tell just by the way they look at each other, by the things they think about, by the stuff they talk about, by their worries, by their concerns, by them trying to act normal. Because what you see in the last season, in season 4, I don't think it's the last season. There's a couple more seasons. What you see is the kids trying to act like kids, like trying to be quote unquote like all the other kids, which is a weird thing to say because no two kids are alike. And to say all kids are alike is to paralyze a lot of kids who are different. So it's okay to be different. And this is what the show does. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to fight back. It's okay to be friends. It's okay to have worries. It's okay to look for help. And in the last season, it's all about finding help. It's all about finding each other. It's all about, they were unconsciously calling to each other, right? We know somebody's in trouble somewhere. Okay, because now you have like 4 actually different places. You have people in California, you have 11 in the desert in Nevada, you have
Harper and Joyce and their friend in the gulag.
They have them in the gulag, and then you have Hawkins, Indiana. So you have multiple storylines at this point running, and you have different actors trying to resolve the situation in different ways, and they all know they're battling the same thing. That's what's brilliant about the show. They know that the monster is one, no matter where they are. They're all battling the same monster.
Yeah.
And it's internal.
Mm.
It's not just external. The upside down world is internal world.
Mm.
May I share with you a
Yeah.
quote from, it's written by Frank Herbert,
Yeah.
who's author out of our
Yeah.
beautiful Pacific Northwest. And, this is from Dune, and I'm sure a lot of you have read it, but it resonated with me and it does apply to Stranger Things. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
Mm. I love that. That's beautiful.
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
That is beautiful. Thank you for
mhm.
sharing that.
Can I ask you a question, Dr. Lahab?
You may ask me several.
Well, this time I only have one.
Okay. Your loss.
Is is the oh God, you just made me snorkel. I didn't want to do that, but I snorkeled. I'm sorry, people. I snorkeled.
Mm.
Forgive me.
Mm.
My question is does the upside world,
Yeah.
the upside down world,
Yeah.
does that exist in all of us?
Of course. I just we talk about it as the dream world. We talk it about as the spirit world. We talk about all these different realities, right? These different worlds, these different places of being, where we go when we sleep, what happens when we wake up. Where are these images coming from deep down inside of us? Where do we see these films playing? Why am I staring at my life 20 years ago? Why am I going through that? Why is it going through my head? Why is it rolling like a film?
Yeah, good questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our run with Stranger Things. If there are other seasons, we will come back to kind of recap, revisit this topic. We love this show. It's an amazing show. We highly recommend for everybody to watch it. If you have been traumatized, it's not a good show for you. If you have like nightmares, don't watch this show.
Right.
If you are under the age of 12, not really recommended. But otherwise, what a great show. All right, people. Thank you so much for joining us for our special broadcast on Stranger Things. This is part 2 and our last episode on Stranger Things. We have a surprise. The IFC's Individuation podcast has a surprise for everyone. When we come back in November, we are going to go into Mindhunter. We're going to go into the unknown other, the sociopaths in the world, the psychopaths, the people who have disconnected, the people who are no longer a part of this human web. Dr. Lisa, you had something you wanted to say? Okay. Dr. Eric?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because, as you very well know, you and I spent the better part of a decade working with that mindset, and it's so deep and yet at the same time very predictable, very understandable.
Yeah, because it's part of the human condition. It's part of the other human condition, which is not to be connected. So there are two parts. One is to be connected, and one is to disconnect from the rest of the world, to disconnect from our empathy, to disconnect from our feeling states.
And it's a side of humanity that very few people have the opportunity to explore.
Yeah.
And so I think we can convey some of the richness of what that mentality is. And with Lisa's incredible ability of being able to, when she says things, and those of you who are listeners, if you haven't noticed it already, pay attention to this. When she describes things, she makes you think of the personal experiences
Yeah.
that of the content that she's relating.
Yeah.
And when a person realizes that that content is a part of their own personal experiences, they're captivated by it.
Yeah.
And on another whole nother level, they feel better about themselves because they realize that, oh my gosh, these are experiences that I've experienced. And she's using words that exemplifies that in our own mind. And so we relate to it, and we are grateful that we have a context of that issue that we've never had before.
Yeah.
And that's to your credit, Lisa. You do that better than I think anybody that I know. And I hope our listeners are picking up on that. I'm sure they are. And if not, pay attention to it because it's incredible.
With that incredible adieu to Dr. Lisa Hong. With that, we are the IFC's Individuation podcast. We are not afraid.
We are not afraid.
We are not afraid.
And we will see everyone very soon. Enjoy the episode. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.